Welcome or welcome back. My name is Yu Wing. You can call me Yu Win or Win, and I'm happy that we could be together whenever and whenever you are tuning in. This video is a part of a 90 day series to speak my truth and to share my story. So, if this is something that you've been working on, I hope you will receive it as a sign to take a step in sharing what you need to share. I do like to start these videos sharing a practice, um, but I felt that it was more important to share what's been going on since I last recorded. Um, it has been a kind of wild. Oh, I don't even know how many hours since that was, but um, it was an it was so interesting because I was like, oh, I cried in my last video. Um, there's a lot of things that were coming up. And then I was trying to calm myself and I was listening to affirmations on the way to dinner. And um, it was a very busy, crowded, um, somewhat boisterous restaurant kind of environment that I stepped into. And the moment I sat down, I felt like I wasn't myself. I felt like I was experiencing energies that weren't mine. And so um, I sat and they were ordering, and then they finished ordering. And then I asked them how their day was, and they talked about what they did and how relaxed they were feeling. And then they asked me how my day was. And if you know me, this answer is not indicative of anything um, good for me. But I said it was fine. And f- part of it for me is when I ask someone how they're doing, I do really want to know. And so if I have the capacity to share, I will, even if I'm struggling. Um, I don't like to use sort of like generic answers. Um, one, because I usually have much more to say. There's a lot going on. But the other thing is, um, I feel like it doesn't allow a conversation to continue, right? It kind of like puts an end to it. Like if you're messaging someone, you ask them a question and they say, it's fine. You you don't think they want to talk to you anymore. So it kind of puts you know, a pause, an obstacle, a like, hey, like, let's not go there, which I guess in my situation was what was going on. So anyhow, um, I could not look at anyone, including my twin, and it was really quiet. I was talking to um, the person who we were celebrating here and there. Uh, and so it was it was really um, uncomfortable. And then I tried to focus on something and I was tuning into the music they were playing, which was like modern Christmas holiday music. And then I think one of the saddest songs, unless you're listening to the Ella Fitzgerald version, um, the saddest Christmas song to me is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So the song came on and I listened to it and then I start like I'm like, oh no, like I've already like halted people from talking to me. Now I'm crying. So I was like, oh. So I'm like looking around and then I like get up because I want to go to the restroom. But in getting up, like my chair makes the loudest sound. It's like nails on chalkboard, right? if you've ever been in a room with chalkboard. Anyways, so I like ask someone where the restroom is and I kind of like dash out of there. Go into a restroom stall. I stand there and I cry. And I'm like, how much time is like a normal amount of time to be away and in the restroom? So I was like, maybe 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, we gotta get it back together, girl. We gotta get it back together. So then I like go out and I'm trying to like, and then I go back to the table and it's like nothing happened because they're not really talking and they're just cooking. And so, um, so then we finish the meal, we go outside, and they're like, "Okay, what's next? Is anything else next?" And it feels like there isn't anything. There was a Christmas tree lot. So we end up going to the Christmas tree lot and for the first 10 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I was smelling the trees. And and then as I was like getting through the Douglas and the Nobles and the some things, I realized that this was my first time at a Christmas tree lot, and I just felt really sad that I'd never been and I never had like a real tree, and I'm like, oh, sometimes like, and then it's time to leave, so we get in the car and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do now? So they're looking up dessert places, and they're like, okay, let's go to this place. So I'm talking with the person in the back with me, the person we're celebrating, and um I was like, I feel bad, about my energy at dinner. And I want to say something. Kind of want to be transparent, you know? She's like, well, if you're comfortable. So I'm like looking at her and I'm like, how do I get their attention? And I was like, I don't, she's like, why don't you say, hey guys? And I'm like, well, one of them's a lady, one of them's a guy. Like, I'm like, well, and I'm like, yeah. So then I was just like, help. And then they were like, huh? What? And then I was like, oh, I just want to apologize for my, the energy that I brought to dinner. And at the time, I, didn't really know what was going on. So I just said, hey, this time of the year, the holiday season's hard for me. And they're like, oh, no, it's okay. So we get to the dessert place. They go inside and I I'm trying to look for a restroom. So I like walk off to try to find one, but everything like you have to be a customer. So I come back and see my twin, and he's like, "Oh, maybe the dessert place we're at has one." I go, "Okay," and they did. So I was able to use the restroom, and then whatever they had ordered came out. I had a bite, and then I stood in the corner, and then I was like, oh no. So I stood there for a couple of minutes and then I was like, no, I have to go outside. So I just like walked outside without telling anyone. I just was like, ugh, the whole time. Every time I left, I was just like, ugh, abrupt. So I go outside and I try to find somewhere to go. And I can't sit on the curb because the car is right there and they're backing up or coming in. And then I can't, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to sit on this planter in case they're looking for me because I don't want to go too far. I want them to be able to see me. And then I'm just like, but I couldn't identify the heart of it. I was like, okay, can't regulate. Something's going on. So I look at my phone and um, my twin asked me, hey, do you want us to get you home? And I'm like, no. Um, and he's like, what can I do to help? And I was like, I could use somebody to, like, I need someone to witness whatever's going on. I don't know what's happening, but I don't want to pull you away from everyone. Because out of everyone I trust him the most, right? So a few minutes later, um, um, they come out and I see them. So I get up and I start walking with them. And then we go to drop off the person who's being celebrated. And then crying and this time sniffling. And then I messaged one of my friends and I was like, hey, like I'm crying, can't stop, I can't regulate myself. Um, so I'm trying to like message her and I'm trying to like, but everything is just So we drop off the person, and then I'm not going to see her again. So I got out of the car to help her, and then I said bye, and I congratulated her. And then I got back in the car and we drove back to my car. And I was just like, I was like, oh no. And then I started feeling nauseous and I was like, oh. And I was trying to like listen to the talk because I was trying to. And what was happening from the time of the dessert place until we got to the car, I felt like I was falling and I kept on reaching out to grab something. So a thought, affirmation, right? I've been working on those affirmations. Um, Anything so that the feeling of falling would stop, but I couldn't find anything. And so I think that's why I kept crying and I couldn't stop. And I don't even know if there were thoughts. Maybe there were. I can't recall, but it was just like, and then like I was starting to hyperventilate like I did when I was a kid when I cried too hard. And I was like sniffling. So we get back and I messaged my twin because I don't know if what it trying to get across came through. So I was like, hey, can you sit with me for a bit? Um, like, can I borrow you? And so he hadn't said anything. And so I asked him to check his messages and I went to hug his partner. And then he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to, if it's okay, I'm going to stay. And then, she'll, she'll drive me back to the hotel. I'm like, yes. So I thank her. And then we sit there. And he was trying to ask me, like, what happened? It was really intense back there in the restaurant. And I was like, I don't have words, to explain what was going on. And so he's like, it's okay. I hope you have words for it someday. And he's like, oh, like, I don't know. I maybe I explained how I felt like I was falling and I was trying to catch and I couldn't. And he's like, oh, that sounds like the experience I had when I had a panic attack. Um, and so I was like, oh, really? Like, because I didn't know what was going on. And so, I was listening to him share and it was helpful. And he was talking about different things and, like what he was looking at. And I was like, oh, that was my first time going to a Christmas tree lot. And then he was talking about like his Christmas experiences and what it's been like this year. And um, it was helpful to like hear him talk and to listen to him. It helped me to catch something. I felt like I was able to catch something. So then um, we went back to the hotel, which was a 4-minute drive. But in those 4 minutes, I had a really hard time focusing on driving. And it was like I wasn't there. And I said something um, like a few moments into it, and he was trying to understand what was going on. And so um, he's like, I'm not sure, but if you're not okay to drive, let's ask, if you can stay with us. And so we arrive and I I go into the restroom and in my body I can feel like I don't have as much control over like when I want to move, I'm sort of moving in slow motion and like my perception felt really off. Um And so when I got out of the restroom, he's waiting for me, and I was like, I'm not okay to drive. Like, I don't feel safe driving. So he's like, okay, let me go up and ask. And so he came back and he said, let's get you a parking pass. And so um, through their generosity, I was able to stay. And rest and kind of find a way back. Because then what I think happened was I was having that falling sensation, couldn't grab anything, grab something. But then I didn't feel like I was in my body. So I think they call that disassociation, um, where you're kind of escaping whatever is the reality here by like not being there. And so I didn't feel like I was in my body. And so that to me, and I remember making the comment like, this feels worse than being drunk. And then I was like, I felt like if I had been drunk, I would have driven better than I would have in the state that I was in. And so it was, it was really intense and it was really hard. Um, and even though my body felt like bricks, I still wasn't regulated because I couldn't do much and I was laying and I couldn't sleep. But I noticed my breathing because I was breathing through my mouth. I couldn't breathe through my nose. And it was very like erratic. Like sometimes it was long and sometimes it stopped and sometimes it was short and then it would go kind of all over the place. So it wasn't until I was able to like have a steady breathing pattern that I think I may have dozed off. Um, so it was a really rough experience. One of the things that was interesting was in the time where we were talking in the car before driving back to the hotel. Um, um, he was asking me, like, oh, like, was the restaurant itself overwhelming to you? And I was like, I couldn't tell. I mean, I just, I felt energies that weren't mine, but I don't remember ever thinking about how hectic it was in there because, I mean, one, the place was packed. Two, we're sitting next to the spot where they like drop off food. And so it was like constant kind of back and forth. Um, and then there's so many TVs, the music that was playing, all of the voices. And so he told me, I felt overwhelmed. And so that's why I couldn't help you because I was trying to like focus so that I could be okay. And I was like, oh, I wonder if part of what was contributing to my experience um, was that I was empathing him. So I was like, oh, okay, that's also helpful to know. And I think I'm sure people have talked about this, but for myself, sort of this realization that as my twin, when I'm around him, he's an amplifier. So if I feel sad, like I was before I went, um, when I'm around him, it sort of magnifies. If I'm happy, then my happiness amplifies. Um, so that it was really interesting to realize that after the fact. I had a couple of other realizations, but they're a bit personal, and I don't want to share too much of that here. Don't think it's my story to share, but it was really impactful. And I do think that it was supposed to happen. I was asking myself, what is this an opportunity for? I was trying to see like how can I be proactive about this? Um, I'm hoping that it's sort of like a springboard. I hope that feeling so out of control, feeling so scared. And I remember when I was like in the back, when I was really struggling to catch something, I'd messaged the person I was sitting with and I was like, may I hold your hand? I know it's awkward request based on what I know about them. And, just people aren't usually comfortable with that. They associate it with being romantic. And she didn't have a chance to read it, but later she responded and she was like, I will hold your hand anytime. Just poke me next time. And I was like, oh, it was really sweet. Um, but there was a lot of kind of feeling young or like maybe really being connected to my inner child that was happening um, in that period. And so I was wondering if really experiencing it all concentrated in a short amount of time was to help me process it so that I can like step forward. So I'm still sitting with this, obviously, and I was trying to recuperate today. I was trying to take it easy today. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's where I'm at on this Monday, December 16th. Um, I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go. I don't think I have it in me to process this anymore today. I think every time I think about it, I still get teary eyed. Some of the things that sort of were the thoughts I had when I could remember thoughts, in addition to not having those holiday moments, Christmas tree lot. I think there's like a longing and a sadness in Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And for me, it was connected to feeling alone. Um, it's feeling alone. Well, it was like in my head, I was thinking about like, oh, I'm usually alone. But I think it's probably that I've been feeling lonely. And so I think the loneliness was exacerbated by the conditions. And I'm like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't go to restaurants or places where it's so concentrated and packed full of people. I was just like, I feel like when there's, I feel like I'm often dysregulated and I have no way of knowing who it's coming from and I'm not going to talk to them. I don't have that gift, but I can just feel it in my system. So I did also just want to mention that a dog that I knew and loved, she passed away today. And so I'm sharing loving thoughts to her soul and wishing her a safe transition, a peaceful transition. There's a lot going on always, everywhere, all the time. And I hope you have something, someone you can hold on to, especially when you most need it. Be brave. I'm sending you a big hug. Until next time, take good care. Okay, bye bye.